Did you hear that Luffy and Sanji has become way more stronger than Zoro? It turns out Zoro's win against King was thanks to a special boost from Chopper's potent drug, making him temporarily 10 times stronger. For those caught up with the One Piece manga, the Zoro vs. Luffy showdown began in chapter 1091, and is still raging on in chapter 1107. Wano had Sanji facing off against Queen and Zoro against King. Sanji's Germa awakening granted him a permanent power-up, securing his victory. However, Zoro's struggle against King, only triumphing with the aid of Chopper's drug, suggests that Zoro might have slipped to the third spot, with Sanji now claiming the second position. As a die-hard Zoro fan, it's a bitter pill to swallow, especially when reflecting on Zoro's past battles. During the clash with Lucci, while Luffy unleashed Gear 5th, tackled Kizaru, took a breather, had a meal, laughed, punched Kizaru, punched Saturn, all Zoro received were insults from Lucci. On the other hand, Sanji not only deflected Kizaru's laser attack, but also geared up to face Kizaru while Luffy took on Saturn. The question looms large. Has Zoro truly fallen from the coveted number 2 spot? It's a dilemma that challenges the loyalty of Zoro enthusiasts, making them question if the swordsman is still the powerhouse they once believed him to be. What if all the Straw Hat crew took on the Admirals at once? Would they come out on top or end up defeated? Let's break it down. Firstly, Luffy would face off against the super speedy Kizaru, the fastest Admiral. Despite some thinking it might be a tie, in a straight-up fight, Luffy would win because he was already tired from using Gear 5th before taking on Kizaru. Moving on, our gravity-wielding Admiral, Fujitora, would take on Zoro. Zoro might not be at Admiral level yet, but with his excitement for swordsmanship and a little boost from Sanji, they could manage a draw. Lastly, the Straw Hats would deal with the often disliked Green Bull. Even though he seemed weak in Wano, his devil fruit power is formidable, and the combined might of the remaining Straw Hats wouldn't be enough to defeat him. However, the strategy would be for the crew to hold off Green Bull while Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji took down the other Admirals, ultimately securing a victory for the Straw Hat crew. What if the Straw Hat crew fought against the Whitebeard Pirates? Let's imagine who would win. First up, we've got the captains. Whitebeard versus Luffy. Whitebeard would be the only person who could match the second-generation Pirate King on equal terms. We'll reveal the results of each battle later. Now, let's talk about Marco, the 1st Division commander. Marco is a tough opponent who can hold off both King and Queen in Wano while healing others. Even when he's not fully focused on fighting, he's underrated for sure. Zoro, the second strongest member of the Straw Hats, would be his best match. Next is Ace. Jinbei would be the best match for him due to his water abilities countering Ace's fire powers. Sorry, Sanji fans. Now, Diamond Jizu, who can withstand Mihawk's slashes. Sanji is the only Straw Hat member who could handle him. Now, let's get to the results. In the first battle, Luffy would win because old Whitebeard isn't strong enough to defeat Gear 5th Luffy. Next, Marco would likely win against Zoro because Marco is just too strong. Lastly, Jinbei and Sanji would win against Ace, giving a victory to the Straw Hats overall. Did you know Shanks is way stronger than both Roger and Whitebeard, and a lot of folks might find it hard to believe because he hasn't been in the spotlight much. But let me tell you, Shanks is a powerhouse. When Kaido was on his way to Marineford, Shanks stepped in and stopped him in his tracks. And when Shanks showed up at Marineford, he wasn't even scratched. Kaido is no pushover, so if Shanks can halt him, you know he's on another level. But it's not just about muscles. Shanks is the big shot in the whole story. Roger found him in God Valley, a place with loads of significance. Roger was expecting some fancy and powerful fruit, but instead, he found Shanks in a treasure chest. Anything linked to God Valley is a big deal, and that makes Shanks special. Now, Shanks has a massive influence on Luffy, who's basically the second coming of Joy Boy. Their connection is all over the story, and it's a big deal. The kicker for me is that Shanks knows all about One Piece but is chilling and doing nothing. Only the absolute strongest can afford to be that laid back. Imagine this: if Shanks wanted to be the Pirate King, he probably could have done it ages ago, but he's holding back because he wants Luffy to take the throne. That's some serious strength and strategy right there. Who's the nicest and kindest Straw Hat member? Let's rank them. Down at the bottom, a surprising 10th place for Zoro, not the usual spot for our swordsman, but kindness seems to be a distant island for him, like it's hidden in the Grand Line. Cruising into 9th is Frankie. Not as rough as Zoro, but we know he has a thug history before. 8th is reserved for Brook, known for his bold questions about undergarments, not exactly a poster child for kindness. At 7th, Robin plays the cool card with strangers, but reveals her sweet side within the Straw Hat circle. And our storytelling sensation, Usopp, snags 6th place, a kind-hearted soul who might sprinkle a bit of rudeness when danger knocks. Jinbei is the 5th, proving his kindness by risking his life and title as a warlord for Ace. Sanji takes 4th since currently his number 4. A bit of a flirt, but a chivalrous knight only for the ladies. Nami proudly waves from the 3rd spot, showing her tender side with the punk hazard kiddos. In the intense runner-up position at 2nd is Luffy. He's ready to go to war with Kaido just for a bowl of rice. Talk about commitment to kindness. And now, the moment we've all been waiting for: the crowned king of kindness at 1st place is none other than our ultimate chopper, the kindest Straw Hat among them. Did you hear the news? Luffy is so strong now that he can take down both Saturn and Kizaru at the same time. It's not a guess, it's confirmed. Let me break it down for you. So, if Luffy can handle Saturn on his own, does that mean he can beat all three Admirals? We know Saturn, this big shot elder, is so tough that he can mess up Sanji's super durable body with just a look, and not even Queen's sword can touch it. Just Saturn being around freezes up all the lower ranking Marines, and he doesn't even need to use Haki for that. Now, where are those folks who doubted Luffy against the Admirals? They must be hiding under a rock. Now I've got one thing to ask Oda, please let us know that Zoro was just fooling around with Lucci and he's actually super strong. We all need that reassurance. Now, let me spill the beans on how we know Luffy can take on Saturn. In the last chapter, Sanji blocked Kizaru's laser and was ready to throw down with him, but in the latest chapter, Saturn comes back to life, bigger and badder than ever. So guess what? Saturn and Kizaru team up to try and take down Vegapunk. It's like a tag team match of epic proportions. What if the Straw Hats took on all the current Yonko? Do you think they'd come out on top or lose? Let's break it down. First up, we've got the big shots Shanks, Blackbeard, and the legendary Buggy. Now, who would go toe-to-toe with Luffy? I'd bet on Blackbeard for this round. Shanks might save the friendly match for another day, as he doesn't hold a grudge against Luffy. So Blackbeard it is for our rubbery captain. I'd call it a draw since Luffy can definitely go punch for punch with Blackbeard, if not surpass him. Now, on to the next one. It seems like none of the other Straw Hats can match up to the legendary might of Lord Buggy, except for one unexpected hero, the almighty Usopp. Imagine a clash between these two legends, shaking the sky even more than Roger and Whitebeard. It's a tough one for our godly marksman, but I'd say it ends in a tie too. That leaves us with a deciding battle between Shanks and the remaining Straw Hats, including Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei, and the rest. Can they team up and take down the red-haired emperor? Zoro and Sanji alone would give Shanks a run for his money, but with others in the mix, it's a close call. Even though Shanks might be a bit battered, he's not one to be easily defeated. So in the end, it looks like the Straw Hats would have to take the L on this one. But hey, they put up a legendary fight that'll be talked about for ages.
In the big story of the Egghead Arc, exciting fights were about to happen. First off, Kid, who left Wano secretly, was on a mission for payback. He lost his arm to Shanks, and now he's sailing to Elbaf to settle the score. Then, there's Luffy and Lucci. Lucci got kicked out of CP9 and moved up to CP0. After their last fight, they were gearing up for a rematch in the Egghead Arc. Blackbeard, the bad guy in the story, took the spotlight. He was up against Law on Winter Island. It was a big clash between two powerful guys from the worst generation. Kaku and Zoro, both stronger now, were set for a face-off. Kaku learned new tricks with his devil fruit power, and Zoro was ready for a showdown with him. Lastly, the Marines, led by Garp, were going head-to-head with Blackbeard's crew. It all started when Blackbeard kidnapped Kobe. Now, at Hachinosu, the biggest fight of the Egghead Arc was about to go down. In this story of revenge, power, and epic battles, the Egghead Arc promised some unforgettable showdowns.